Hello, today is October 17th, 2025. I'm meeting today with Mr. Melchor Garza at his home in Powell, Wyoming. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Remember and Honor Veterans History Project. Welcome, Mr. Garza, and thanks for sitting down today to tell your story.
You're very welcome.
Well, let's start out, if we could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your date of birth, where you were born, a little bit about your early family life.
Well, I was born June 30th, 1947, and I was born in Mexico, Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. And then my parents decided we moved right across the border to Far, Texas. And so we went to school there. I was just like in first grade. I remember Sister Genevieve, I got my hand spanked because I threw a rock at my cousin. So she caught me and she made me stick my hands out, and she grabbed a ruler and pow, pow. And I still remember that. Sister Genevieve was her name. But anyway, we lived there for a while, and then my mom was having a rough time. Well, her in-laws were giving her all sorts of static. They were making her life miserable.
Yeah.
So she finally told my dad, she says, we need to get out of here. And so we started migrating north. And there for a while we got in with this guy that had a big old 2-3 ton truck with a canvas on it, and we started traveling from state to state. We picked cotton in Arizona, cherries in Washington. We were migrant workers. Tomatoes and potatoes in Idaho. And finally, my dad, he says, no, we got to Lovell, and he ended up getting a job with this Victor Winterholler was his name. And he says, no, you kids need an education. We're not going to go nowhere anymore. We're done traveling.
Wow.
But
now, how big was your family?
Siblings? I had 1, 2, 3. I'm a twin. I got a twin sister.
Oh, really? Okay.
But there were 6 total. So, 4 brothers, and my sister and I, 6. And
how did you fit in that order, you and your?
I was down to the second to the last.
Okay.
My little brother, he's in the Air Force right now.
Okay.
But the oldest was Roy. He was, I believe my mom had him from a previous ordeal. But anyway, my dad's still married. But then there was my brother Paul, which is that one up there that they got killed, that come home from Vietnam, and he was a drinker. He gave my mom all sorts of headaches. He'd take off with these older guys. He was 16, and he'd go to Billings and stay overnight. He was just a hellraiser.
Yeah.
And he died young. He died in a car wreck.
Hmm.
But so we ended up over there, and my dad says, no, we're not traveling anymore. You kids need an education. But every summer we had to go thin those damn beets with a short handle.
Sugar beet, that industry, that is hard work.
It was.
Yeah.
And but we made it through it. And then, like I said, the rest of us, we all went to school, graduated out of high school. And then, like I said, my brother, that one that got killed, he volunteered to go into the Army at the age of 17. Because he could have graduated out of high school at 16, but he said, no, I ain't going to school no more. But he went back the following year. So he did graduate at the age of 17, but when he graduated, he decided he was going into the service. So he volunteered and went in. Well, needless to say, we stayed around, and eventually my other brother Joe, he ended up getting, he was going to get drafted anyway, so he got drafted. Then I was next, and I volunteered for the draft.
And why'd you do that as opposed to waiting to get drafted? Yeah.
I don't know. I just went. Well, no, it wasn't. No, I actually got drafted, but I went to take my physical in Butte, Montana, and at that time, we weren't actually U.S. citizens.
Wow.
We had to report our address and stuff because we were migrant workers.
Yeah.
But then my dad decided to stay, but we were not U.S. citizens. But they took my brother. He volunteered. My other brother Joe, he got drafted, he became a medic, and my brother had just come home. My brother Joe, the one that was a medic, and I had gone into the Army, got drafted and gone to Fort Lewis for 14 weeks straight, basic in the IT of Fort Lewis, and from there heading to Vietnam. Everybody that graduated they were, we were getting, everybody that was going through basic in the IT, Vietnam was hot and heavy at that time.
Oh boy!
So
How was that transition for you going from civilian life into military life? Was that much of a change for you at all, or?
Well, it was, but see, I had like I said, I had the two brothers before me, and so they kind of
Gave you advice.
They gave me advice, and they said, listen, you're gonna have to obey orders, and you have to, but I was never somebody that would argue with anybody. So I went through basic in the IT in Fort Lewis, Washington. I went.
And I imagine too, with your previous field work and such, that the physical part of it was no big deal for you.
Man, like I said, it was. I went through basic and the IT both in Fort Lewis, Washington. I didn't get any breaks between them.
And not even a chance to come home?
I came home. Finally, they sent me. I went home just before they sent me to Vietnam, and I said that's the way it was, So, but my brother Joe, he was a medic. He was home because my mom had passed away, and so he had come home because my mom, and he started telling me these gory stories about Vietnam. He says, Melch, he says, it's not very pretty. He says, I'm going to tell you a story of one incident that I had. He says, it was a night. We could hear this guy screaming. And it was a GI, American soldier, but he was screaming and screaming. He says in the morning, he finally quit screaming. They went and found him, and the Vietnamese had cut his head off, opened his stomach, and stuck his head in his stomach. He said, that's how we found that guy. And they said, wow, man. So he got to see, him being a medic, he got to see a lot of gory stuff, Because he did spend the whole 12 months over there. But as I was going over, I says, Joe, I said, it ain't going to happen to me. Well, I lasted 4 months and 2 days. I was walking point, stepping.
Yeah, well, let's back up, and we'll get to that story.
Yeah.
So you flew over to Vietnam. Now, did you go as a unit or as a replacement?
I went as a unit. Well, our whole, the company that I went through basic and the IT with, everybody was heading for Vietnam. There was one guy that had gotten recycled. He had screwed up on he was the only one that got sent to Korea. The rest of us, we were all Vietnam bound.
And when was that roughly? When did you go over? What year?
69.
69. So things were definitely hot and heavy.
Yeah. 68,
Yeah.
69.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was just that one guy that went. Had gotten recycled, so he got to go. He was going to Korea. The rest of us.
What was a person thinking, if you can remember? I mean, you're flying over there. You got all that time to just sit there and think, and you're heading into war and hell. And what's going through a young kid's mind at that?
I don't know. Yeah, we did stop in Hawaii. That's the only time I've been to Hawaii. We had a layover there for 15, 20 minutes, or a half hour, or 45 minutes. So they let us off the plane, so we got to walk in the airport. And then they put us back on the plane and got into Vietnam, and we were getting off the plane.
Where did you land in Vietnam?
In Cam Bay.
Okay.
And
what's that? I've heard so many stories that when they open that door in Vietnam, I don't know what time of year you landed, but
it was. Well, I got over there. I'm trying to think of what the month, but it was nice weather.
Oh, it wasn't, so you didn't get that blast of heat.
No, but it was warm. But anyway, we got off the plane, and they left the big. It was one of those cargo planes, and there was this company of soldiers that were coming home, and I said, "Oh God!" They says they were hollering, "Short, short." Yeah, they were coming home, and we had just got there, and I said, "Oh wow, we got a year." There's one guy had a little pet monkey on his shoulder. He brought him home, I guess. But anyway, so I said, well, that's life, you know. So we got on there, and then right away they knew where our company, you know. I made a friend of mine, Marvin Rogers. He lives in Detroit. He and I together, we went to the same platoon, same squad.
And what was that?
Second and the first of 196, the Americal Division. And we got down, and they took me and Marv, and he was a huskier guy, a little taller than I was. But I was pretty stout because of that exercise. I was about 170 pounds, and there was no fat on me. I mean, I was in pretty good shape. We got to the hill, and Frank Holtz was my squad leader. Marv and I got off the helicopter.
They helicoptered you into the unit?
Into that unit.
Yeah.
And he looked at Marv, he said, well, I found my pigman. Pigman was the guy that carried the 60. They called the 60 machine gun the pig. So he says, I got me a pigman, and I said, well, I'll be the assistant pigman. And, you know, and I carried extra ammunition anytime we went on patrol. Marv would carry that, plus his 400 rounds, and I carried my 16 with another 300 rounds of 60 caliber, you know, and stuff. But anyway, and so we ended up there together. Like I said, I didn't last very long.
Yeah.
4 months and 2 days.
What were conditions at the camp like? What, you lived in tents or
No,
closets or what?
No, we had poncho liners, you know, for the rain. Well, that's why you teamed up with a guy. With me and Marv, we buttoned up our deals, and we made a tent. We dug our foxhole, and we put those over the foxhole.
Jeez.
And inside that foxhole, we made, because at that time I was smoking. So was Marv,
yeah.
And we got free cigarettes on our sea rations every time they brought us in. Well, they had, you know, cigarettes in there and everything. So we had rigged up our foxhole with a bunch of little holes where we put our boxes of cigarettes in there and stuff, and we ran patrol off that one hill every day.
That was your living conditions. That
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we take off, and my first patrol that I got there, and they said, come on, we're going up. And since I was the newest guy, I got to come on the end of the squad. Well, we were crossing this rice paddy, and we got hit from the right side. And I dove behind a dike, but there was this other guy, we called him Okie. He's from Oklahoma. We nicknamed Okie. And he ended up out in the middle. He wasn't behind nothing. And all he had was his bush hat, and he had his stuff like this. And I says, get your ass over here. I says, that bush hat is not going to stop a bullet. But we made it through. But that's how I got initiated.
That was your first
that was the
mission?
First
Oh.
mission. And I says, oh, and they told us, he says, hey, so you get together with some of these guys that haven't been before, and they'll tell you, okay, this is what you do. Don't go. Nobody's a hero out here, so don't play a hero. All we're trying to do is get through these 12 months so we can get the hell out of this and go home.
Yeah, yeah.
And we want to go home alive.
Yeah.
But we sat on that hill, and we lost a few guys on that hill. But we also lost them because, and this is what really gripes my ass, we had ceasefire deals that our commanding officer would say, no, we have a ceasefire. You cannot fire unless you're fired upon. And Pete Komorowski, I remember Pete, Mike Ottball and Pete Komorowski were partners. And they saw them coming. They saw the dinks coming up. It was at night. And, they dropped a mortar run in, and they got Pete landed right in front of me and just blew his head off. And that Mike Ottenball, we had a service for Pete up on the hill, and the lieutenant commander come up with a helicopter to attend the service. But Mike, when that commander got off that chopper, old Mike grabbed a 16, he says, and pointed it at him. He says, "Don't say a word, you son of a bitch, don't say a word. You had us, that we were supposed to, ceasefire, and yet Pete's gone. He got killed on a ceasefire." And Mike was pretty upset. Mike and I were we were also the tunnel rats.
Oh.
I was a tunnel rat.
Oh. Talk about that. I can't imagine what that...
Tunnel rat, and I don't know whether I was just... I wasn't scared. That was the deal. And the thing is, I never did have a flashlight. I used a Bic lighter to go in there.
Well, for those that may watch this interview that don't know what a tunnel rat is, explain what a tunnel rat, the duties of a tunnel rat were.
A tunnel rat, anytime we go, because the Vietnamese always made these tunnels. I mean, they're just holes in the ground that went. And they even had a town, or kind of a big hospital underground. But I never run into that. It was mainly we'd run into these tunnels, and I was one of the tunnel rats. Garza, get over here. And I didn't have flashlights. All I smoked. I had a Bic lighter, and I go in there with a Bic lighter and a 45.
Oh, jeez. That had to be terrifying.
But you know what? You get not complacent. You get to just, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But you can't just... It was war. It wasn't like... But there was just a few of us, me and my squad leader, Frank Holtz. He was another tunnel rat. He and I were tunnel rats for the company. But every time we ran into a tunnel, boop, go in there.
Did you ever come across anybody?
No, never did. I never did. But Frank Holtz did, my squad leader. He said he was going in there, and there was a tunnel coming this way and a tunnel coming this way. He was going in this. He says, "Melch, I was going in there," and out of this left tunnel, a dink stuck his hand out there and looked at me. And so I of course you went in there with a pistol 45.
Yeah.
He put it on him and he says, "Come on." He pulled him out. I got a picture of him, of that dink out of there. And but Frank Holtz never did make it. He got killed he was walking point and come up on a little brick wall, and he was walking across that, and there was a dink behind him and killed him. And so it was shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, to see Frank, and stuff like that. But
how big was that unit, your camp?
My company?
Yeah.
We had a company, and it was like 307 people.
On this hill? Yeah.
But it was a big hill, tall,
Yeah.
And every day.
And you ran your
patrols right off the top of that hill.
And would you normally go at night, during the day, or all daytime?
Day. Yeah. Mostly day.
Okay.
We never ran night patrol. Now they had different units. They had the LERPs. That was a special unit of maybe 4 or 5 guys that would go out at night, and others like that. But our company, we sat up there and we didn't go out at night. We went.
And physically, what were conditions like that you guys were going through? Rice paddies or jungle or highlands?
Rice paddy. It was jungle.
Oh, okay.
But we go down these trails, and then we hit the flat where it would be rice paddies, but it was rice paddies and stuff, and the jungle was, but there was trail, the American had been there, so there was designated trails, and that's one thing you had to be careful too. Also, the day that I got blown up, I was walking point, and I stopped because I seen a dead dog and a pig dead right alongside the trail. The dog was chasing the pig, and I stopped. Sure enough, there was a wire. That damn dog and pig tripped that, or else I would have. But I stopped and I looked and I says, and I remember saying, I says, God, this, it's not going to be nice. It ain't going to be good today. And it wasn't, because that's when I got my ass blown up on the way back.
Oh, man.
But now, so you know, but it wasn't that you got, you kind of got complacent after a while, you know. I says, what are you going to do? I mean, you can't see these little bastards. You know, they were sneaky.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, man. They were tough little bastards. And so you took it, you know. You just have to be careful. As a matter of fact, the day that I got blown up on the way out, we were taking a break, and I was sitting with my 16 like this, and there was a little curve on the trail coming this way, and I just happened to look up, and there was a dink walking right to me. And he saw me, he bailed off, and anyway, so I grabbed a grenade and I flipped it over the book, and it blew up, but I never got him. But, and I remember saying, I said, oh God, it ain't gonna be good. And it wasn't, because that's the day I come back, when I was coming back.
Yeah. So you were there 4 months. How many missions do you figure you got? You went on before you got blown up.
Oh.
Would you go daily, or would you guys?
Daily, every day. That was our job. We get off, boom, boom.
How?
You know, the company, it was a whole company, which I don't, you know, I'm trying to think how many squads or how many platoons. 3 or 4 platoons. And they all went, but we all went different, you know, off the top of the hill. You guys go this way, you go this way, you go this way, you go. And it wasn't. So it was an everyday ordeal that we went down off. And it wasn't just, we called it a hill, but it's it was fun climbing. I mean, but
so what were? Let's get back to. I definitely want to get back to the missions and. But life on the hill there. What was like the food like? Just rations, or were they throwing any warm meals in at all? Or
now, if Thanksgiving, they got some shoppers, and they brought us turkey instead the fixing for a Thanksgiving meal. And Christmas they did that. But the rest of the time, it was just boxes of sea rations, and that's what we ate. You know, unless there was times when some of us were, if we go into a village, and we had a sergeant that went chasing we went to this village and stuff, because we had 3 or 4 guys had gone before us, and they called in and said that they were in trouble, they needed help. So our squad, we went out there. They had just found a bunch of rice, so we had to get choppers to come over, pick up the rice, and take it away from them. And found some weapons, and that was it. And this sergeant, and it was an all-day deal. You know, we went down there, and they didn't tell us, so we didn't take any damn sea rations or nothing with us. So this sergeant was out in the middle of a rice paddy he had caught one of the chickens and wrung its neck, and he was out there trying to get some more chickens, and we peel them and cook them and eat them, you know. Yeah, anything to survive, but it was a hell of a nice walk all the way back. But these guys said that they had found this and that. Well, all they did was they did find 4 weapons and some rice, sacks of rice. But other than that, that was it. So when they told us they were in trouble, we figured they weren't in trouble. So we didn't take any sea rations with us. We were just going to get down there and make sure that they didn't. But anyway, it was a long walk back.
Wow.
And you talk about leeches. Oh my God, leeches. And but anyway, yeah, we had our and I'm not saying, you get used to you get used to
Well,
what.
I'm going to ask you about that here in a second. I mean, so what? Okay, so you guys aren't. You're back for the evening or whatever. Got some. What would you do with your time off when you weren't when you were downtime for entertainment to pass the time?
We didn't have any downtime, sir. When we were on that hill, it was patrols every day, every day. Now we did have like Thanksgiving, and also was I in Christmas anyway. We would go into our fire support base camp was in Chu Lai, and they used to have. We'd go in there for 3 days. They'd bring choppers out and they'd take us to that place because they had bands from Korea, just live bands. And for 3 days, we did nothing but drink, listen to music, and then 4th day, get on the choppers.
So that was
Back
your
to-
R&R.
That was our in-country R&R for us. And
Well, let me ask you. Okay, so as I'm sitting here listening to you, you lived in a hole basically.
Yeah.
Out in the conditions, out in the
Yeah.
bush. Weren't eating probably okay, not well. Probably weren't sleeping very well. Your cleanliness, sanitation was probably awful.
we could dig holes in hell. Sometimes you dig where somebody already dug a hole to go to the bathroom, I mean, that was it.
Well, so I'm listing all these things, and each individual one of them could knock a man down, but you had them all, plus the umbrella of being in a war zone. How do you think you made it through that? I mean, what?
I finally got to the point where I said, well, if it happens, it happens. I mean, what the hell could you do? You were out there, you did the best you could, and that was it. We did have German Shepherd dogs with their dog handlers that supposedly these dogs could sniff a Viet Cong, could smell.
Yeah.
Well, they lied. Because I was walking point one time, and it's happened several times. I was walking point, and we stopped to take a break, and there was this, they call it elephant grass. It's grass that's very tall. I sat down, and I had my rifle sitting here, and I just happened to look to the side, and I seen that elephant grass move. So I stood up, and there was a VC crawling through the elephant grass. So I went down, come up, and fired, but he had already dropped off. So I went around. Sure enough, he was in little, we call it spider holes, little holes. And that guy was, but we captured him. I never shot him, but he had a knife, and I took that knife and I kept it. And but this dog, I bet you he wasn't from here to that damn door over there. And supposedly these dogs could smell it. Never happened.
Oh man. Wow.
And the thing is, and then that dog handler says, "Oh, by the way," he says, "I'm not walking first."
Yeah. How did one get chosen to walk point? Did you guys rotate, or were you?
Yeah, we rotated.
Okay.
But that guy with that dog had gone out 2-3 days before that, and he had gone first with the dog, and something happened. After that, he says, "No, I ain't walking first. I'll walk behind the point man." I says, "What the hell's the sense of having a dog?
Yeah.
You're gonna kill a dog? You're gonna kill a soldier before you kill because a dog? You don't want to kill the dog? Dogs are supposed to smell this stuff." Well, that was a bunch of bullshit, in my opinion. Because I had a dog that day, but he was walking behind me. I mean, but I says, no. And on that day, also, we got to the end of our patrol, and we started receiving fire from our left, and there was just a little mound of dirt, maybe about this high, and that son of a bitchin' dog beat me to get behind that door, and I could see those bullets hitting right above me on the brush, and that son of a bitchin' dog, they were smart. They weren't dumb dogs. They knew how to protect themselves. But anyway, on the way back is when I said, "Oh God, it ain't good. It's not good," and it wasn't because I stepped on it.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that incident and what happened. And
yeah, we got there and we got hit. And anyway, nobody got. We finally cleared, and we walked back. And like I said, that guy would not walk first with a dog. So I was walking on the dike. And you try not to walk on the dike, because that's how they would come behind you and set up these damn booby traps. They would set this. And I was walking on the rice paddy. I happened to step up on the berm, on the dike. And boom, and like I said, I can't remember whether I yelled it or just thought it. I said, "God, no, not me."
Really?
Yep. And so we sat there, and we had to call in the choppers to come pick me up, And the other guy, there was another young kid, Mike Ottenball was his name. He was a little bit smaller than I was. And he went into a damn tunnel. He says, "Melch." I dropped down into the tunnel, and wow, man, they had set up a bear trap, a big bear trap. But it got the heel. It didn't catch him on the ankle. It caught the heel of his boot, so it didn't.
Oh, man.
He lucked out on that one.
Wow.
But Mike Ottenball, he was another short guy, and actually, Pete Komorowski, when we got hit that night, and Pete was his partner, because you partner up with somebody, you didn't. And when Pete got killed, and the thing is, it was a ceasefire.
Yeah.
They told us we couldn't fire unless we were fired upon. And I says, "What kind of bullshit is this?
Yeah.
You got these commanders sitting on their ass back in the base." Now I said, but anyway, when Pete got killed, Mike just about went bonkers. We had a service for Pete on that hill. The commander come out with a chopper, and Mike grabbed his 16, and he just pointed it at him. He says, "Don't you say a word, you son of a bitch, don't say a word." And they set Mike on a 3-day R&R, in-country R&R, because he wanted. The next day we were going to go on patrol. He wanted to go into a village. He says, "And I don't give a damn if it's kids." He says, "I'm going to kill him, you son of a bitch."
And he never got busted down for going after the commander or anything?
No.
Oh, good.
He didn't care.
Yeah,
You killed my best friend on a time that we were supposed to have a ceasefire. We can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Let them kill us, and we can't do nothing. No. I mean, that conflict was not. You had these commanders set on their ass back in the nice and safe. They didn't care about us. We were just pawns,
You had mentioned that you guys would go into villages, so you would interact with locals.
Not very much,
Yeah.
we checked the people, their houses and stuff, but those people weren't dumb, because they could tell, they could hear us or something, and if there was any soldiers in there, and they were good. I'm not saying they were good. I mean, they could run and everything else.
Well, and you guys had a different war. I mean, like in World War II, you knew the front line was 4 clicks up that way, where there was no front line with you, and that had to be hard with, when you had children and women, you didn't know if they were friend or foe, or if they had a grenade under their...
Nope.
That had to be, I can't imagine dealing with that.
And I did have one incident, and it was either me or Thomas Cleaves, another one of my guy in the squad. I was walking point that day too, and I come around a corner, and there was a little clearing, and there was a bunch of Mama Sounds and Papa Sounds, and there was 2 NVA soldiers talking to him, and so I opened fire. I shot once, and Thomas Cleves shot once. And then I saw him take off, and so I went around, and I could not get another shot at him, but I come back, and there was a little 12-year-old girl that got a bullet in her.
Oh, wow.
So it was either me or Thomas Cleves, because we were the only 2 that fired on them. And so that kind of, it still haunts me now. I can still see that picture of that poor girl. You know, a little 12-year-old girl with a bullet in her head. And it's kind of hard to take.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, boy.
But war's war, I guess.
Right,
And,
right.
but anyway,
Well, let's get back to that when you were wounded. Were you conscious after you got?
I never lost conscience.
Really?
Never lost conscience. I come back
And where were you? Where were you wounded? Where were all?
stomach, legs. I went from 168 pounds down to 88. Year in the hospital.
In a lot of obviously in a lot of pain, or did they shoot you with morphine or?
Oh yeah. I spent pretty close to a year in Fitzsimmons General Hospital.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
I'm going. When you're laying in that rice paddy, what's
just-
going on? What?
Just lay, and we got hit there, but then we had to call in Cobra gunships to clear it out before another chopper come in, and they threw the dog in first, and the dog handler, and then they threw me in, and away we went. You know, and I spent several weeks in the hospital right there in Chu Lai. You know, they didn't send me anywhere because I was hurt pretty bad, and God, I was in that hospital, and the commander says, "Garza, can we do anything for you?" I says, "Yeah, I want to talk to my partner. I want to talk to Marvin Rogers." And by damn, they pulled him out of the hills, and he spent 3 or 4 days with me in the hospital. But there was a colored guy right next to me that both of his legs were gone, both of his arms were gone, and I said, Jesus Christ. And I talked to the nurses later when they took him and they sent him off to another hospital, and they said, no, he didn't make it, he died. Oh. But you saw stuff like that. And my sister wanted to go over there. I says, you ain't coming over here. You ain't, because she's my twin sister.
Yeah,
she says she says, I want to go over there. And I said, no, you don't want to see this. There's just...
Did she ever? They always say with twins they've got this intuition. Did she know anything about you?
There's something had happened, and the thing is, I had put down as my for
Contact?
her to be notified if something happened to me. Well, I had another older brother, Roy, that lived in Idaho, and he got the message first. And I said, "What the hell?" No, an uncle. I had an uncle. That lived in California that I had spent 1 or 2 summers before I had gone into the service and went to work there in Los Angeles. And he's the one that got a hold of my sister. He says, hey, your brother Melch, because she's my twin sister,
Yeah.
says he's been wounded. He got messed. And she says, what? And she never, that's the only way she found out. It wasn't that they got told, you know. My mom had died, and my dad, he hardly spoke English anyway. He understood and stuff, but he knew I was wounded and stuff. And but my sister says, I want to go. I said, no, you ain't coming up here.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty bad, you know. But no, it was.
So,
like I said,
how long were you in that field hospital?
I was in that field hospital for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Really?
And then they sent me to Japan, Camp Drake, Japan, for 3 days. Then they flew me to Fitzsimmons in Denver. To Oakland first, spent a day in Oakland. In Oakland, took a plane and they put me in Fitzsimmons General Hospital in Denver, and that's where I spent most of my time.
And
in the hospital.
how long did you say you figured you were in Fitzsimmons?
A year. Hell, when I got there, I only weighed about 90 pounds. I couldn't walk, I couldn't do that. So I had to start all over again. And they put me on a bed and so I could stand up. Yeah, because I was down to 80, 88 pounds, 90 pounds. So, but there's a lot of guys here in Fitzsimmons that they were a hell of a lot worse shape than I was. Minus legs, you could hear guys screaming in pain at night at that Fitzsimmons General Hospital in Denver. So, and the thing that gets me is, like I said, I wasn't a U.S. citizen at the time. Neither were my brothers.
Well,
we lived here, but I felt, this is how I felt, sir. I felt we were living in this country, we had an obligation to defend it.
Wow.
Now, how many of these bastards that went to Canada and then just, because they didn't want to go into Vietnam?
Yeah.
Now, that kind of irked me a little, you know.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
I said, I'm not a U.S. citizen, but I live here.
Well, what you'd all gone through, was that enough to grant? Would that automatically have granted you citizenship, or did you have to eventually apply?
I had to, after I got out of the hospital, I went to work for Marathon Oil Company, and I just thought, you know what? I better go become a U.S. They made me take the test. What are the 3 branches of government? No. I had to go before a judge, and when I got done, I looked at that judge. I says, "Now, you son of a bitch, you can send me to Vietnam legally."
Yeah.
And he just stared at me. And I told the guy that when I took that test, I says, "I want you to do something for me." I says, "You pick 2 or 3 kids off that sidewalk, bring them up there, and you ask them the questions you're asking me. See if they know it."
Yeah.
But no, I had to take that. 3 branches of government, this and that. I said, wow. But I felt I had to become a citizen because I didn't want to lose my disability.
Yeah, right.
Because they could have said, well, he ain't a citizen, why the hell should we give it to him? But I had 2 brothers before me.
Yeah. Wow.
But anyway.
So you spent that year in Fitzsimmons and then were finally released. Did you have any more time left on your service, or were you discharged?
I was discharged.
Yeah.
Medically discharged. I was not. I think when I got to Fitzsimmons, I only weighed 110 pounds.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was skin and bone. But
so then from Fitzsimmons you came back up north here?
Yeah, I came back to Lovell and I went to work. You know?
That's kind of the reverse question I asked earlier. How was that now going from military life and everything that you just experienced, had gone through, now you're thrown back in civilian life? Was that much of an adjustment?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was, even though I was only in combat for 4 months and 2 days, but still, I had to be careful on where I went, because if people came behind me and yelled, I couldn't, I would jump, you know.
Fair enough.
I went to my brother, the one Joe, that he was home when I come home, and he was home. We walked down to the A&W at that time in Lovell. I was on one of my leaves from Fitzsimmons. We had walked down there, and I was getting something, and I made the mistake of coming on the 4th of July.
Oh.
I was standing out there, and we were having something, and these goddamn high school kids went by and threw fireworks. And man, I jumped up and I says, "You son of bitches," as loud as I could say. He says, and my brother Joe says, "Hey, you're at the A&W, you watch it." I says, "I don't give a shit." When I went and looked them up both days, I said, you son of a bitches, you're lucky I didn't have a gun. I said, I killed your guy. He says, Melch, we didn't know. And I said, well, but, you know, when my brother Joe said, no, you get kind of spooky, I said, nah, well, it does. It does affect you, you know.
Has that gone away over the years, or do
Yeah.
you still, is it faded?
No, it has kind of faded away.
And how about flashbacks and nightmares? Did you ever have experience any of that?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm by myself. I don't just take it as a bad experience, you know. I still got pictures of when Frank Holtz got killed. I can still see his body. You know, he was walking point, a goddamn little brick wall about this high, had a path in it. He was walking right through it, and there was a goddamn NVA behind there. And when Frank looked, they put a bullet right through him. We killed the son of a bitch, you know, but we lost our squad leader. So that kind of stuff, sir, I don't forget.
I don't know how you could. I don't know how. That's got to be just seared in your head.
You do what you got to do to survive, you know. And when I come home, I just told I told friends of mine and stuff, hey, don't come up behind me and yell. You know, if I have a weapon and stuff, I'll kill you. And it isn't because I want to.
Yeah.
It's just reaction.
Yeah.
You get reactions. My brother Paul said, hey, and I thought, he's just full of shit. Well, he wasn't full of shit. He knew what he was talking about because he was there. And he was just a mechanic. He wasn't an infantry man like I was.
Right.
My brother Joe was the same thing. He says, Melch, you gotta watch out. I says, Joe. He told me an incident, you know, I don't know if I told you, he caught this white guy in the middle of the night was yelling and screaming. And finally the screaming stopped.
Yeah.
Went out in the morning and some bitches cut his head off and opened his guts and stuck his head in the, and I said, you son of a bitches. But yeah, you know, it's kind of weird. You go to a war and we have to fight by rules.
Yeah. Well, like that when Pete got killed, it was one-sided rules.
Yeah. I said, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sorry, but our country screwed us.
Well, that was one of my questions too. I mean, your thoughts on the war. You've now had 50-some years to chew on it. What, as you look back on it and thought about it, what are your thoughts on the Vietnam War?
To me, if they would have let us fight it like a war, it wouldn't have lasted. We had the equipment, but all these commanders and higher up, they had rules that we had to fight or abide by.
But the enemy didn't.
But they could do they could set up we couldn't set up booby traps for them. Now what the hell? So I don't, you know, and like I said, if I would have wanted to, sir, like I said, I was not a U.S. citizen, but I felt I had an obligation. You know, I lived in this country and stuff, and I could have said, hell with it, I'm not a U.S. citizen, why the hell should I go?
Yeah, right, yeah, sure.
Or I could have gone to Canada, I could have gone back to Mexico.
Yeah, right.
Still, they would have let me back into Mexico.
Yeah.
But I said, no, same thing with my brothers, you know. We lived here.
Wow.
And so, anyway.
Let's talk your post-war years. So you got back, came back up here and went to work in the oil industry. Is that right?
Well, for a while first, I was just I loved to drive trucks. So I got on with one of these trucking outfits and road construction.
Oh, okay.
I got on with the road construction, and then I finally put in my. They had an opening over here in Byron at Marathon Oil, and I went and applied, and there I got hired because they said they had to have so many Hispanics.
Oh, jeez.
And that's another thing that, because I had two bosses, or my bosses, that I hate to say it this, but I wish I could have killed them, two son of bitches. Another guy that was Hispanic, they started to treat him, they would not promote him for the simple reason that he was Hispanic. Well, he took him, he went and got Fair Labor Board in Marathon, and they finally gave him a gang pusher, which he had plenty of time with company, but yet they were bypassing us. They wouldn't promote me neither. They didn't like me either for that simple reason. I says, people like that shouldn't hold a position like that.
Right.
Dan Hammond and Jerry Guthrie, I still know who they are. And I says, man, but I got out early. I says, you know what, I need to get out, because if I don't, I don't want to do it. I just don't want to, because I'm afraid if they push me, I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, right.
But what the hell is that going to do to the rest of my family?
Yeah.
So I got the hell out, and I said, no, I went road construction, driving truck. I love driving these big semis. And so I went to work there. But, I went through discrimination. And I said, what the hell is this?
Particularly after what you did for our country.
Yeah. And these two guys, none of them went to the service.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, but that's, So, like I said, I have no regrets. I done what I've done.
And
here.
And you went, you did that your whole career, driving a big...
No, I went to work. Actually, I worked for Marathon for 24 years. But I finally said at the age of 54, I said, nah, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm going to go do something else. I just got tired. I would not get promoted.
Yeah. And what did you do for them?
I was a well tester. I tested all the wells.
Okay.
But if a higher position came up and I had seniority, they wouldn't give it to me. And that was just these two guys.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do nothing. And I says, something? I said, it ain't. I says, I'm not afraid to kill somebody. I says, I've done it. Not that I want to.
Yeah.
But you push a man enough. And I just said, no, I need to get the hell out. So I went to road construction, and I drive these big rigs, and I love that.
How long did you do that for then?
Oh God, I did that for, in fact, I did it till about 2 years ago.
So another good 20-year.
I can still go, if I want to go work during the summer road construction. I know the Mountain Construction's got a big company that they do paving and stuff, and McGarvin Moberly out of Orland. That's what I did. Drove truck for them when I got out. I was driving these big semis.
But that was probably another 20+ year career then too,
Yeah,
huh?
I just kept going. I says, hey, I just love to drive
those
big rigs. I says, hey.
Yeah.
So.
And I think you'd mentioned off camera that you took advantage of the GI Bill and went to...
I went to Powell here for a year, 2 years. I went to 1 year in the Army, and I was going in to teach in Spanish.
Oh.
Because I'm a bilingual.
Yeah.
But I went and observed at a class, and I says, no way in hell can I put up with these kids now.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to discipline.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where you couldn't discipline, those kids could run shot over you.
Yeah,
and I said,
right.
no, I'm not going into teaching.
Yeah.
So I just...
Gotcha. Okay.
But I still had to, like I said, GI Bill and stuff. It wasn't that I couldn't afford it. I mean, they were paying me and stuff, but I said, no. So I got out and I started working. I love driving those big rigs, trucks. So I said, that's where I made my living.
Yeah. Good. Good.
But so
Well, let's talk a little bit about family. You say you had 2 children. Talk a little bit about grandchildren. Talk a little bit about your family.
okay, well, I got a son that he's 50. He just turned 50 not too long ago. And I got a daughter, and she's in her 40s. I got a great granddaughter. She is late 20s. She's got 2 little ones, and one's only a year and a half old, and the other one's deal. So I got great grandsons, 2 of them, and then I got a grandson that's right now he's in the service.
Oh, really? Yeah.
My son's boy,
Uh-huh.
Antonio, he's in Lithuania.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, but he's about ready to get out, and I says he'll have 5 years in. And I said, why don't you just stay in there another 15? You can retire. Oh, hell no. He says, I ain't I'm not staying in the service.
Did you give him any advice before he took off at all? Did you guys talk about him, or what were your thoughts about him going into the service?
Well, I told him, I says, you know something, it ain't bad. Now, I says, when I was in there, it was a lot worse. Nowadays, they're not as strict, they're not as harsh on the guys.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in there, I mean, when you're just a peon, I mean, they treat you like hell.
Yeah, right.
But nowadays, they can't do that. But he'll have 5 years in. He's coming home here in a couple months.
Okay.
And I said, well, you only got another 15. You can retire at 40. Oh, hell no. Well, you know, these kids, they don't like to be told what to do or take orders. It's a problem, you know. So I said, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty smart kid.
Good.
It's my son's boy. He's only got one. He's only got him, and then my daughter's got. She's got one.
So
she's got 2.
2 children, 3 grandchildren.
So, yeah, I got 3 grandkids. I got a granddaughter, 2 grandsons, and now my granddaughter's got 2 little ones.
So
great,
two
2 great grandkids, but they're little babies. And I says, I tell my granddaughter, I says, oh, good luck, sweetie. And remember when you gave Mama hell? No, but so they all live here and stuff. So,
Oh, good.
So I take, you know, I hate to see my grandkids and my suffer or anything. It's also a lot of times I help them out with money and stuff. And my sister sometimes says, Melch, you can't be doing that. And I says, bullshit, why not? I'm single. I says, I got everything I need. I hate to see people suffer. If I can do something to help them, I says, especially my grandkids, my great grandkids, I says, no way in hell.
Yeah.
I says, I got everything I need. I can take off and go.
Yeah.
I said, my Social Security, my disability payment and stuff. I says, hey, I make $7,000-8,000 a month sitting on my butt. And if I have to work, I can work. I've never forgotten how to drive a truck. If I had to, I'll go get in and drive a truck. But this year I said, nah, hell with it. I ain't doing it.
Good for you.
I'm just going to say, sit back and if it gets to the point where I need it, I said, but I don't need it. I said, I get my disability, I get my Social Security. I says, I don't need to be rich. I don't need to live in a fancy house.
Yeah.
I don't need to be driving a brand new car. I said, that's irrelevant in my book.
Yeah.
You know, I like to take off and go somewhere once in a while. I went back to Vietnam.
You've gone back?
Oh yeah.
Oh, talk about that.
My buddy Danny Tibbetts. Where in the hell was that picture?
Yeah, we'll dig it up when we.
Anyway, Chops. He graduated with me high school, and his son was working over in China. And Danny and I said, Chops, let's go back. Let's go back to Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
And he says, well, John, my son, he says, he lives in, he works in China. He says, and he knows that area because he travels a lot like that. And his name was John. And John says, yeah, you guys want to go? I'll take it. Let's go. So we went we were over there for a week and a half.
And how was that for you? What was that like?
We went, I didn't go out to where the hill was,
Yeah.
but we went to Chu Lai. It's a town or city, whatever they call it. It's where we used to come off that hill every month, every 2 months. They bring us into this this area where we put up our weapons and we drank as much as we wanted to, and they had bands play it for 3 days. We just sat back, ate, listened to music. Third day, fourth day, get back on the chopper, you're going back to the hill.
Oh, that couldn't have been fun, getting back on that chopper.
To go back, go to the hill. But those 3 days,
Yeah.
we used to have bands, and we had an all-women Korean band, all women, all pretty ladies. Of course, these guys could, these horny bastards, they're out in the boonies, And I said, wow. But anyway, got to go to a couple of those before I got messed up and stuff. So.
And so going back, it didn't spark any memories or any back flashes or anything?
Really, no, it didn't. I thought maybe it would affect me a lot worse, but I just said no. You just gotta get a mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I says I'd like to go back again. I says I'd like to go back and see if I can make it up to that hill where we were at.
Wow.
And because I used to, like I said, I used to go into the tunnels with a damn Bic lighter.
Yeah. Jeez.
And in a 45, I lucked out. Never did, get anybody in there. But those people, those Vietnamese people, they were tough little fighters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they knew their country and everything else.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Oh, that's great. And you most recently went on the honor flight. Talk a little bit about that.
Man, I tell you, and I'm going to go again. That guy, and they took us to Washington D.C. and stuff for 3 days up there. Went to the wall.
Yeah. And how was that?
It kind of hit because I saw Pete Komorowski was one of them, and Frank Holtz was on the wall, and there was Ron Tanner out of Montana, and I says, so it's kind of it sets you back a little.
Yeah, right, no doubt. Oh boy.
But I'd go again.
Yeah.
It's just.
And you've mentioned buddies through this interview. Do you still keep in touch with
Yeah.
guys from unit? Have you had any sort of reunions, anything like that?
Yeah, I've had with the Americal Division. I was with the 2nd, the 1st 196th. Americal Division has a reunion every year, in different states.
Okay.
I went to a couple of them. This year I didn't go, but I got another friend of mine. He was with the 198th. I was with the 196th, but he goes every year. He lives in San Antonio, and he says, Mel, you're going to go next year? I said, well, I got to know way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because, you pay so much and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go and see some of those guys and stuff, and just reminisce.
Yeah.
Nothing that's, nothing to brag about or nothing, but,
Right.
we just sit back and.
Yeah.
But it's nice. And I'll probably go again. Maybe this year again. I'll go and see where the American Division's having their reunion and hop on a plane and go BS.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Melch, as we kind of start to wind down this interview, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about? Any other stories that floated to the top that you wanted to talk about, so that we get a good, well-rounded view of your story? I know we probably only got the tip of the iceberg of your story, or do you think we pretty much covered everything you'd like to cover?
Well, going through basic and AIT, and it was a good. I didn't have any break in between.
Yeah.
I went through basic, went to AIT, and I got 2 weeks before I went to Vietnam. And I says, I don't need 2 weeks. I had made friends with a guy, Richard Delano, out of California. And so I went with him for a week before we all went out. He ended up with Alpha Company, and I was with Bravo Company, so I didn't get to see him again. So I don't know whether he made it all the way through or not.
Wow, jeez.
But Marv Rogers, the guy that was with me up on the hill, well, I go down to my sister, and he's only like about 70 miles away. He lives in Michigan. My sister lives in Indiana, but we're close. And he and I, we talk a lot. He was,
So from the time you got drafted until you came home wounded, you never came back. You never got a chance to come back home.
no, well, I was in Denver, but I would once in a while, every time that I would have a surgery,
Yeah.
they'd let me heal up a little bit, and they said, "Hey, you can go home for a week."
But you got drafted, went off to basic, went to AIT, then to Vietnam.
Yep.
So you never had between that and during that time you never came home. Huh?
I did come home about just before I went to
Oh, okay.
Vietnam.
Okay,
I
good.
did.
Okay, good.
I come home.
Good.
My dad was here, and he and I got to talk. In fact, I had never drank beer with my dad. I always respected, he drank, but I never drank a beer in front. But that time when it was in Cody, so we went over to the bar over there, and I had a beer with him and stuff.
Huh.
And
Wow.
but
Yeah.
we respected my dad. The Hispanic. They tend to have a little more respect toward their elders, So my mom was the one that she died of a brain aneurysm and stuff, but like I said, my brother Paul, my brother Joe, and me, we were the three that went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I had my youngest little brother. He went into the Air Force, and he spent 20 years, but he didn't go over
good.
there.
Good. Well, the last question I like to ask in these interviews, and I kind of feel kind of funny asking you this, is how did that time period in the Army and Vietnam and everything you experienced, how did that play a role in your life, affect your life, change your life, or did it, or do you just look at it as just a chapter in your life? How would you answer that?
Well, I tell you what, when I come out, I had a while. It took me a while to get adjusted to what I call civilian life.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I didn't want to argue with anybody. And the first thing I tell them, I said, "Listen, just leave me alone. I've killed men.
Yeah.
Don't push me." Because there were some guy, I would go into a bar and there had to be a smart ass, He was a white and I was a Mexican, and I was in Lovell at one time, and there's this other guy that was also a Vietnam veteran, but he had this buddy of his that was a mouthy bastard, and he was and I finally called him over. I said, "You know what?" I said, "My car's sitting right outside the bar here, and I carried a .38 pistol."
Yeah.
I said, "You tell that son of a bitch, you better shut up, or I'm gonna kill him." And he did. He went and told that guy, "You better shut the hell up." And he did. I said, because when I come back, I'm sorry, but I respected authority and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to be, because I was a Mexican and you were white, don't give me that shit.
Right.
I said, "Get over it."
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid. I says, "Hey, you want to bring it on? Bring it on."
Yeah.
I says, "It's going to end one way, and it ain't. I'll be standing. You'll be gone. Because I'm not going to stop."
Yeah.
Killing somebody is not, I'm not saying that I enjoy it,
Yeah.
but I had to do it.
Yeah.
Me or him.
Yeah. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
but I tend to be, I'm not, I don't like to go, I don't like to have, I never was a fighter. I could box. I was a pretty good boxer, But I said, I'm not the kind that I'm going to go out there just, I said, no, I don't. I'm peaceful, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Let's have a good time, and
Yeah.
that's just my style.
Yeah.
Now that son of a bitch and Paul, my brother Paul, he was hell on wheels. 16, 17. I mean, he'd get together with guys. We lived in Lowell at the time, but there was a friend of his that was about 2 years older than him. They'd take off and go to buildings. He'd stay overnight. He could have graduated when he was 17 years old. He was smart. He was in the Honor Society. But man, he was a wild, and he died young.
Yeah.
In a car wreck.
Huh.
And but me, I said, nah. I do have a drink now and then, but heck, I haven't had one now for 6-7 months. I haven't even had a beer. But when I come out, I did.
Yeah.
I did drink.
Yeah. Understandable. Yeah.
But I always I never. When I went out to drink and stuff, I left my weapons at home. I says,
And in regards to the wounds you sustained in Vietnam, do you still have any effects of that? Do they bother you at all?
Once in a while, my guts. I had most of my guts taken out. Look at this shape. I'm split from right there. I'm split from right there all the way up to here. My leg, this leg's a hell of a lot skinnier. My left leg is pretty bad. My left eye is messed up. I got blurred vision out of my left eye. And I know when that happened, we were setting up for a night logger that we called a night, and I was pounding in a trip flare. So in case, and that damn thing went off right in my face. But I never bothered. I could still see with my other eye and stuff. And I never knew it until I got to Fitzsimmons General Hospital. When they put me in the hospital, they checked my eyes. He says, you got something wrong with your left eye. It's burnt on the backside.
Oh, my God.
So if I would have known that had happened, I probably could have got out of it. I never would have got wounded because they would have got my ass out and gave me a desk job or something.
Yeah.
But I could still see with that, it never affected, well, it did affect me, I guess, but I didn't know it. So like I said, I didn't know that that I'm damn near blind out of my left eye, but I says, hey, I can still see. So. My left turns are not as sharp as my right,
right.
as my right turn, but I'm good.
Boy. Wow.
Now, like I said, I have no regrets. That I went.
Yeah.
I had 2 brothers before me.
Yeah.
But my feelings were, hey, I live in this country, I'm going to defend it. But I finally had to go and become a U.S. citizen, and they gave me the whole test.
Yeah, that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I went up before the judge after I got done, and he says, now you're a U.S. citizen. And excuse my language, I says, now you son of a bitch, you can send me to Vietnam legally.
Yeah.
It wasn't a nice thing to say, but hey.
Yeah. Wow.
I come back and I didn't have, I wasn't afraid, let's put it that way. Yeah, I said what I wanted, I said it. But I wasn't the kind that I was going to go out just looking for it.
Right.
But I never backed out.
Right.
I said no.
Wow.
But no, I feel, my 2 brothers and me, we fought for this country and stuff, and it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. Wow.
The only thing that would bother me is excuse my language again, these bastards that went to Canada and goddamn Carter just turned them loose. I says, you know what? I'm sorry, but I can't agree with that.
Yeah.
So, no, I've had a pretty good life. Hell, I'm 80 years old. What the hell? I could have died when I was 24, 22.
Jeez.
But here I am, giving him hell. And I do. You know, I respect people, sir. I respect people, but when they start mistreating me, I ain't gonna let it. I'm not gonna let it.
Yeah.
If it means my life, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'll be damned if I'm gonna get stepped on and shit on. Nope. I got more rights than some of these people that hear that. I says, I fought for this country.
That's right. That's right.
So.
Well, Melch, I want to thank you for sitting down to tell your incredible story, but more importantly, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
You're very welcome, sir, anytime.
Uh-huh.
That's me. And my sister, my brother Paul up there, and my brother Joe.
Very good.
That's my grandson from my son's, that's his son.
And that's the one in
He's
the
the one in the service right now.
Uh-huh. Which one do you want to go to next?
Well, that's my great grandson. That's my granddaughter right there, and that's her little boy.
Okay.
And don't ask me about the names, because I haven't got them memorized yet. But that's her husband right there, and her.
Your granddaughter and her husband?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This is my brother, Lee. He's the one that's in the Air Force, retired. That's my brother-in-law. He was over there. He was a medic. And him and my brother Joe worked together.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Ron Pulaski. That's my twin sister.
Okay.
And but he was a medic up there and stuff. And they owned a company, orthotics and prosthetics company, and he just sold here not too long ago. But my brother worked for him, and
that's then more.
Actually, they were together in Vietnam. They were both medics. My brother and stuff. This is my son, and he was in Lovell. That's my garage right there, and this is my brother Joe, my twin sister Mickey, and my littlest brother. We call him Junior, but his name is Leandro Garza, and that's me.
Okay.
And this is there's my dad.
Okay.
And my mother's right here.
Wow, what a beautiful woman.
But this is my oldest brother, Roy. He's gone. He passed away here last year. It's a whole dang family, but it's in black and white.
That's okay. And where are you in that picture?
Yep.
Right in the middle there?
Right here.
Yeah. Okay.
And my sister.
All right, you want to give a description of this here?
Okay, well, we were affiliated with the Big Red One. And this was our Americal Division, the Americal. And, well, this is my infantry badge.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's my Purple Heart.
Purple Heart. Bronze Star.
I had a couple of Bronze Stars. And
wow.
The Vietnam campaign and service medals. But that's...
Very nice.
We were with a company of tracks, and that's me right up there, Dan Sokolowski. They were just giving us a short ride, sorry suckers, and they dump us off and we have to walk. But not very often did we ever get in with a company of tracks.
Right. All right.
That's the hill where we were at, where we ran our patrols out of every day.
Okay, that's you there.
That's me.
And then going next here.
We were going into that I can't remember. I think we were going into Chu Lai at our 3-day deal. And so they took us by truck and dumped us off and left us alone.
Okay,
and that's me on one of my patrols.
Wow. And that's kind of the general what the environment looked like.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm taking this is your R&R.
Okay. This is the band we used to go. Remember I told you the Korean band?
Yeah.
There's those women. There were 5 women, and those guys. Oh God, those guys would go crazy.
And then the one below it here.
That's Eric Thurman. We were going into Chu Lai. We were on a truck,
Okay.
and that's me sitting up on the hill. I was writing a letter.
And then next to
This one is right here. This is Marv Rogers. He was he's the one that carried the 60.
oh, okay.
And I was the pig bed. Marv Rogers, he lives in Detroit, Michigan. And Skip, he wasn't there very long. I don't know whether he got transferred or he got a rear job or something, but he wasn't there very long.
Okay. And then this one here. Next.
That's Eric, Tim Wallace, James Trotter, Eric Thurman, Dan Sokolowski. There's Dan, he's from Chicago, and Frank Holtz was his, because you partner up with a guy.
Uh-huh.
And Frank Holtz was his partner, and when he got killed, he was just getting back from R&R in Hawaii.
And then going next to...
And these guys were all, that was at China Beach. That's where we had our damn, our 3-day
oh, right.
deal.
Is that you there, or is that...
Yeah, that's me, right there.
Yeah.
And then this picture here, my buddy, Marvin Rogers, the one that he and I were partners up there in Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
That I was already gone. This is after I left. He spent up on the hills and stuff. So
And then this is...
I still see him. I go down to Detroit and get with him.
And this is a photograph of you here as well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.